Morning and what's going on, my friends? Welcome to another Subie Shaves video with me on a beautiful morning. Hashtag Team All Blade and hashtag No Blade Left Behind. All I can say is Subie smiles to all of you and squad goals. Thank you so much for clicking into our shave video and for joining me. Hopefully wherever you're watching from, you're drinking something delicious and you're sitting in a comfy chair. Will it on in and welcome. Thank you so much for clicking into our shave video and for joining me. Today we're going to be talking about this razor right here, the Broman MKii, and we're going to be using the one with the updated tolerances. This is a razor that was conceptualized in the UK, but is actually being produced out of Portugal. It is a razor that uses a pivoting head to kind of shave with a half DE razor blade, and it actually secures the blade with a magnet. Now you can see the two of these I have right here are very similar, but we're going to talk about some of the differences between this razor and this razor, along with some of the other ones on the market, and we're also going to kind of go over some of the stuff that's happening currently on the market with current users of the MKii Broman razor, right? Again, these are razors that are being sold right now as kind of like a pre-sale, right? You have to kind of pre-order the razor. It's not in full production yet. And I want to kind of mention some of the stuff that they're doing, some of the stuff they're experiencing, and some of the difficulties maybe they're facing, while still kind of giving credit and merit to the razor that they did send to me. Thank you again for being here. I'm really excited to do the content, and I'm really excited to get a BBS shave with the 24 hours of growth we have. Today, we're going to be using HC&C, the Wetshaving store, and Jerry Plessy's Shave Dad's beautiful Eastwood scent. I love this. They just had the opportunity to do the release. It's available right now. They almost did sell out on the first day, but I was told that they are going to restock Eastwood. I love this one from Hendrix Classic & Co. Beautiful scent, absolutely banger. It smells to me just like this really complex, like kind of bougie scent. I like it a lot. It has like this tobacco flower that plays with the rose, but for me, it's got this beautifully sweet caramel and like a honey that kind of lifts together with a mandarin. It's nice. It's ritzy. It smells like very, very luxurious and rich. I think the word rich is really, really accurate with this soap. And I love that label, that metallic-esque label. Again, this is available right now at the Wetshaving store only. And for all of you that are going below using our link, thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. And I'm super excited to see this one doing so well. 6-shooter kind of scent, if you ask me. Yeah, again, no campfire, no smoky fireplace kind of smells right there. Just a nice, beautiful kind of floral with a mandarin sweet scent. I like that one a lot. Our shave lather today, absolutely banging. And when you look at the brush with the soap, I mean, it really paired well today. If you ask me, I just can't get enough of this. I did overuse when it came to the lather on the first video. The HC&C stuff, man, wow. Hendrix Classic & Co. really makes a great base, and I way overused. So today I dialed it back down a little bit, but you can just see here, look at that stuff, goes for days. And I am gonna just call this out. The Broman razor tends to like a hydrated lather. So today we've got a really, really hydrated lather, and it is ready to get knocked down. Oh, it smells really good. If nothing else, it smells amazing. Now let's talk about the Broman razor. This one right here. I'm gonna have a hard time keeping these ones together and side by side, but I want to do this video with you today because I have some things I have to talk about with this razor, some things I am just learning about the razor, and on top of that, I just want to call this out, be totally transparent between you and me. I have already filmed with this razor once before. I was going to post a video, and then I got some information. I got a little bit of user experiences coming in and kind of trickling into our channel, and I just didn't feel comfortable talking about the razor without mentioning it, right? So the first thing I want to call out here is the razor is actually assembled with two pieces, and I'm going to use the one that's not loaded with the blade so you can see here. This razor is assembled, and as you open it up right here, you see how those are two pieces of metal? Well, mine, the first variation, you can see has a lot of gap. The second variation they sent to me has very little gap on that actually between the two pieces. I don't know if they've changed the way they're adhering that or the way it's being assembled, but what you can see is the first variation they sent to me, it almost looks like when they glued it, there was some minor variances between the gluing and the adhering process that makes it so that it's not quite level. Now this one that they just sent to me, right, they fixed it. They said that they're going to pay more money per unit and that they're going to change things and dial in their process a little bit further. Kudos to them for that part of things. But they actually sent me a razor that has blade exposure now that is straight and even. But if they were just gluing these two pieces together, right? I want to mention that this is a razor that's for $50. It's being kind of like fundamentally securing a blade, right? It's fundamentally using a glue to secure and straighten and keep everything nice and flush. I don't know if I love that. I just want to call that out. They are using a process to adhere the two pieces of metal together, and that leads me to believe that there's room for failure as the razor is used over the ages, right? This is a razor that is Z-Mat coated with a stainless steel cap and flap. Now, they recommend that you snap your your DE braids in half and put them in like this. When you do that, what you'll get is these little flaps kind of overhang. You see that right there? It kind of overhangs. So what I would recommend is, rather than doing this, I would recommend just clipping them with scissors so you don't get these tabs hanging out that are kind of sharp, because when you snap them, they're not going to be really comfortable if they accidentally catch the back of something on your body. Really, really uncomfortable. You catch the back of your knee with that. I'm just straight up being honest with you on this one. The actual razor itself does not have any knurling or any way to create like tension in your hand. So what you're going to want to do is press. You want to put your finger here and press. For me, this is not a razor you want to do a ton of pressing with, which is kind of counterintuitive due to the fact that it has a spring, right? So this razor does have a spring, and I want to show this. So the first one they sent to me, and this may be just something that's going on with the razor because it's so early on, right, in its developmental phase. Look at when I put pressure here. You see how it's pretty flush? It's pretty secure. Only pressure like this really pushes it forward. This one that they sent to me just recently, you see this? It has a little bit of forward play. That kind of worried me when I first saw it. I was like, oh, that tolerance is a little bit shoddy. But the actual the actual pivoting mechanism that goes back actually has a little bit binding here. It's a little like gritty to me. Just my model that they sent to me, just a little grittier. I want to call this out. It's a $50 razor that does pivot. It does have a stainless steel piece, but it is using glue to secure and to keep everything straight, which does worry me for the long-term kind of viability of the razor. It's a razor that is pretty like oddly aggressive for as little efficient as it really is. When you compare it to like the One Blade or to like the leaf razor, right? The leaf razor is really, really interesting. The lowest slot is the most aggressive one. For me, the lowest slot on the leaf has more blade fill, but it's way more efficient. For me, the middle plate on the leaf is probably about as efficient as the Broman is, but it has half the blade fill on leaf side of things compared to the Broman, at least for me. Now, again, I did use this razor before, so I have shaved with it. I shaved with it again today. You can see on the face, it was a phenomenal shave. Very, very close on the face. But when I shave with this on the face, I'm able to get it so close because it's flat, right? The flat surface to the flat surface. Very easy to use. And it shaves well. Now, when you start shaving circular surfaces, things like that, I like pivoting razors. And most people, what they'll tell you is, this razor right here and this razor right here, really no different because they are securing a DE razor blade. So you don't need a pivot to actually shave, right? And that's what most people will tell you. It's a handicap, it's a crutch. Honestly, it's not a bad argument, but I kind of like autopilot kind of razors. And I think the pivot mechanism makes it a little bit more comfortable for a new shaver. Now, when we talk about the new shaver, and everybody always wants to market things to the person that's never shaved before, the new shaver, right? This is a concept that really appealed to me. I was like, okay, I like the pivot. But for me, if you start putting a lot of pressure on this razor and it really starts to engage, it gets kind of uncomfortable. The aggression goes way up, unlike their first version. Their first version, as I put tons of pressure in, they didn't really change much. There's not that much pressure. Look at this. There's not much pressure to this at all. So as soon as you put any pressure, it's kind of like this. And that's how I use this. Every time I shave with it, just kind of fully engaged. This razor's not that way. And as you put some pressure, I mean, it's definitely way stiffer. And as you put some pressure into this, you start feeling quite a bit of aggression. Now, the way a spring works is, for me, is that there's like a bell curve, right? And you don't want it so loose that it's just flopping around, but you don't want it so hard that you really have to push down to engage it. There's definitely a sweet spot, I think, on this razor. A little bit less tension may have actually served the razor a little bit better, in my opinion. Now, again, let's do a shave today. Let's see how it does. Again, 24 hours of growth using Derby blades, because there is some blade fill. Some people have been using this, reaching out to me saying they sliced themselves up and that they're having some issues with the actual aggression to the razor because they go into it just thinking, oh, it's going to spring and pivot. And for me, this is a razor. You saw that swipe right there? It takes lather right off, and it definitely has some blade feel to it. I am not putting a ton of pressure down, and I'm just kind of letting the 81 grams of weight do the pivoting for me. Now, I mentioned 81 grams like that because on their website, it actually says 88, 86 or something. I'll have it listed, but it's actually 81 grams according to my scale. So there is some discrepancy between my scale and their weight ratios. For me, guys, this one is strangely nice and smooth, but there is going to be the problem of the secondary market, and I don't think anybody's really talking about this. If you see a Broman Mark II on the secondary market, do not buy it. That would be my recommendation. Avoid that razor at all costs because the razors are being sold, and they were sold and made with lots of different variations, right? Again, that razor may not be one that is, securing the blade straight. It may not be one that shaves very well. And that may be from a user that hated the razor and can't get back in contact with Broman to get their money back or send the razor back. To be really honest, I would highly advise against looking for one of these secondary market. Now, if you're saying to yourselves, well, if secondary market's out, should I buy one, Subie? Would it work for me? I think that's going to be very personal kind of like, person to person experience. For me, it is a good shave. You see this? I am having no problems. The problem is I have a hard time setting aside shave merit to build quality and to history and to all the other things that really accompany the razor in itself, right? There's a lot of like sullied history that goes along with this. And on top of that, there is going to be some variation razor to razor. If they really are just kind of putting it together with glue, I don't know if that is how their new way of manufacturing is. I'm not making the razor, and I have not been able to kind of get a hold of them and ask how like that I don't know if they'd even tell me how that final assembly mechanism is put together. But I can tell you this, the razor itself does not want to be a razor that you do a ton of buffing with. But as far as the efficiency of it, it feels like you almost want to, right? Because it's not super ultra efficient. My one buddy reached out to me and said for him, it's a super aggressive, really efficient razor. Lots of blade fill. Another friend of mine reached out to him, no blade fill whatsoever, but it absolutely is ultra efficient, right? And he said, half a pass, he's BBS. And if he applies any pressure, he bleeds. Now, this is a razor, again, I feel like as soon as you start really honing down on the pressure, it becomes a very unforgiving, almost daunting experience. You'll watch me. I'll do a little bit of buffing here, some back and forth strokes. It does shave down very nicely with this variation. But again, I don't know if that's just the one that they sent to me. Again, they did send this to me. They actually issued an entire survey post their first launch, right? They did the launch, they sent everybody items, and then they realized they had some problems. They did a survey and they said, if you have a problem with the razor, please reach out to us and we will work with you. I want to give them kudos and credit for not just, releasing and running, right? They did not do that. They stuck with it. They said, okay, we had some problems. We will at our own cost, replace and repair the razors. And I think that was really cool. Now, again, that is what my experience has been. Some of my friends have reached out to me and said they never even got a first model. And I've told them, again, you want to go through their Instagram, you want to talk to them through their social media network. You really want to be able to try to get a hold of them directly if you didn't get a razor, or if you ordered one and you never saw one. One of my friends said, that they are they're really looking forward to the razor, even at a year later, right? So this was a razor I ordered way back when in October of last year, right? October of last year. We're into October now, right? So it's about a year later. I think it was actually November. Now I really think about it. I think it was November, but it was about a year ago. And this is the first time I'm shaving with it. Second time I'm shaving with it, really. First time on channel with you guys. Second time for me in a year. So it's definitely been a razor that I think a lot of us looked forward to. It is a razor that doesn't always fit everybody's aesthetic preferences, right? There's a lot of guys out there that will see this and say to themselves, Subie, are you using kitchenware, right? I had a buddy reach out to me and go, is that something you use to peel vegetables with? No, it is not. And it is definitely not. And that comment was actually mentioned the first iteration, right? A long time ago. It's a razor, I think, design-wise, that even though it may not fit everybody, I can see the merit to it. I can see where if that pivoting mechanism was actually there to kind of work as far as like a safety measure, could be really cool. For me, it's almost like a tool that teaches you not to press. It says, do not press with me, because as soon as you start to press, it's uncomfortable. It almost like teaches you how to safety race your wet shave, which is not a bad thing. But if you think about it, it's kind of counterintuitive to what the pivoting mechanism should do, right? It should actually let you engage it and really apply some pressure. Now, I do think some guys are going to pick this up and say, this is so ultra mild. This is the most mild razor that I've ever used in my life. When in reality, when you compare it to something like the Henson mild or really mild razors on the market, it actually is more medium aggressive. But for me, it's like not super ultra efficient. It's almost like more aggressive than it is efficient. It's kind of odd, kind of a strange one, but I do enjoy the shave it gives, especially on flat surfaces. Again, I want to call that out. On flat surfaces, phenomenal. On circular surfaces, or places like my divots or scar, the places I've had surgery on my head, the places I've had surgery and scars, it is a little harder to get BBS, and I end up having to kind of go back over areas. And I've noticed the more I buff with this razor, right, the more I go back and forth over and over and over again, like you can kind of do with medium razors or mild razors, the more irritated my skin gets. So it's a razor you don't want to do a ton of passes with, but I feel like has a hard time on bumps and unlevel surfaces, which again is kind of counterintuitive to a razor that uses a spring mechanism. It's a cool concept. I don't think it's quite there, and that's my personal opinion here as far as the way it shaves. For me, it feels really nice in the hand too. I use a little alum, but I don't have a ton of slippage, but I could see where other people would say I am not very happy with how like the ergonomics feel in the hand. Overall, right, when you compare this to other razors on the market, when you look at the high proof, you talk about the Leaf, the One Blade, a lot of the other razors on the market, I don't think what you have is a razor that's better or worse. I think you have a razor that's very different from the other ones, which offers more options, right, to the market. I like having more options, and I like saying, okay, what's your price point? What's your budget? If you're not looking for a razor that's going to last a lifetime, right? This is definitely not going to last your lifetime. It secures the head cap with glue, at least from what I understand. I do want to call that out. I'm not positive if that's the way they're still doing things, but as far as what my buddy could see when his came unglued, right? It was actually being adhered to with glue. So at $50, you kind of should know what you're getting yourself into. You should know there may be some small tolerance issues, and there may be some problems with fit and finish, but when it comes down to the shave, when you're talking about just shave merit, eyes closed, not thinking about things other than how does it feel on the post shave, it's pretty darn good. And I think that's the hardest part for me as far as mine shaves really closely, very easily and super comfortably, right? I have no nicks, no dings, no irritation, and it didn't take any skill, but I can't guarantee if you run out right now, you pre-order one at Broman's website, you're gonna have that experience. Now, I do think that they are trying to rectify problems. They are changing the process that they manufacture at, and you can definitely see that I have an even blade gap and exposure. All good things, all things for the positive here. But I do not want to just go in and talk about the positive without giving you the full history, the experience, and giving you all the facts, right? That's my goal here. I really value credibility and honesty, right? And that's why I wanted to reshoot the video today, because I want you to know that I am here for you 100% transparently. You should know what the razor is before you order it, and you should understand some of the downfalls and pros and cons of the razor, right? It is using a magnetic head cap solely to secure the blade. You're not screwing anything together. If you worry about the magnets coming out or the head cap coming unglued, right? If you're not looking for a razor that's going to last a lifetime, right? This may not be the razor for you. But if you're at like a price point search, right? You're kind of like, I just want to try out a pivoting razor. I do think this has some merit, and it does shave really well. At least this one did for me today. Let's grab a little bit of splash and get it going and see how it does. Oh, really excited to see. Post shave wise, smells great. This is just a beautiful scent. Again, Eastwood by HC&C, Shave Dad, and Andy over the Wetshaving store. Great scent again. And I have to give HC&C a huge shout out. The base just performs so good for me. Absolutely fantastic. Get a little going on here. Oh, 6 shooting kind of scent, Western style, but for the big screen. Oh, it smells so good. And you can see no problems whatsoever, especially as I sit here, we're talking back and forth. I'm not having any flare-ups, no problems. It shaves really comfortably and really well for me. I just wanted to redo the video, shoot it honest and straight up, and let you guys know some of the things I've learned over the last 24 hours as people are starting to use their version 2's post the revision, right? That is post the company sending out new razors. I think it has some merit. I think it has some real value to it, especially for the new shaver, right? The new shaver that doesn't want to use a DE razor blade for the first time, or people that are doing their domes that want a little bit more maneuverability with the spring. spring, but I did want to call out some of the issues with the tolerances, fit and finish, and the amount of aggression that comes in when you really dial in that spring backwards. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate each and every one of you. If you haven't, please go below, smash that sub button, and I'd love to chat with you. Let me know in the comments, did you get one? Did you order one? And if you did, how does it shave for you? Thank you again for being here, and until I see you guys for the next shave, Subes out.